Thank you. Thank you so much for connecting with us. I miss interacting with folks as the team, and we wanted to have this opportunity to update our tree people, let you know what's going on with us, some stuff that we have coming up, and really more than anything, ways that you can continue to be involved with us during this very unique and new time. All right, so we wanted to thank you so much, first and foremost, for constantly renewing your commitment to our mission statement, right? As we inspire, engage, and support folks all over the world to come together and make this region sustainable, right? We thank you for doing that over and over. And we have some updates, we have some ways to get involved, we have ongoing programs that you can easily plug into. The ways that you've gotten involved in the past. So thank you for that. And again, if you have a camera and you're comfortable showing your screen, please do so. We do ask that you keep yourselves muted, but if you're comfortable sharing your screen, please do so. We want to see faces, right? If we're not asking for too much, not to judge any hair, any lack of cosmetics that you may not be able to have, that's fine. We love you regardless. And after this webinar, you will get a follow-up email with all the resources. So if you feel like we're moving too fast, if you feel like there's just too much information, don't worry, you'll get an email afterwards that you can use to follow up and learn about these programs, okay? So we wanted to begin by taking you into the Tree People world, how we have our staff meetings, as we usually begin with something called opening council. And we can have the next slide, please. And opening council is really an opportunity for us to ground ourselves around this common question. And the question that we selected for today is, during this time, has nature made you feel closer to someone in your life? So if you could please, type directly into the chat, take a minute, think about that question. I know time's kind of hard to keep track of during these times. But if you could please think about that. So again, during this time, has nature made you feel closer to someone in your life? And that can be interpreted a lot of different ways. It can be someone that's with you, that isn't with you, that's deceased, maybe a newborn, anything. All right. All right, I'm seeing some amazing responses. I'll read some of these. My father, my daughter who isn't in Los Angeles, Claire, so I'm glad I was able to connect you. Hanging with my husband in the garden more than before. I love it, Christine, that you have that opportunity. Jonathan, I think most of us would absolutely agree with nature has spiritual energy. I love it. The granddaughter visited about a week ago. New California native plants. I love it. Keep up the good work, Bill, with the native plants. We love it. Awesome. Love it. My dad, who passed away 3 years ago, I'm sorry to hear that. Gardening. Oh, that's amazing, Elizabeth. Elizabeth uses her father's gardening hat to do gardening to keep in touch with her father who's deceased. I love it. That's a beautiful story, Elizabeth, and we love hearing these stories. All right, we'll do maybe one more. Husband, daughter, and I get to sit under our tree and observe the birds and lizards. I love it. You might hear some birds in my background as we go through this. So keep typing in the chat box. Take this question and reflect on it, and feel free to keep typing in this chat box as we go on. So we wanted to also share a nice video with the team. So if we can get that video up and going, please. And this is a really nice video, and our understanding is that Zoom might slow down the video because of the amount of folks that are in this webinar. But we wanted to share the video regardless, and we wanted to have everybody. Hey D, hey Dietra, miss you. All right, so if we can play that video, please. Love it. Beautiful. All right, so we have some different staff members joining us today, and the first staff member that I want to introduce is Cindy. Cindy is our Chief Executive Officer, our CEO. Cindy, I know I saw your face earlier, and I'm wondering if you could let us know about what's going on with TreePeople, give us some updates. Maybe we got some upcoming programs you want to share with our folks.
Okay, can you see me?
I can. Hey,
All
Cindy,
right.
how are you?
Okay, great. All right, well, hi everybody, and welcome to our virtual volunteer summit, which is the first one that we've had since the COVID pandemic forced us all to stay indoors more. And we had to temporarily halt all of our volunteer events. As many of you know, we just first of all have to just start off by thanking you for being such incredible just volunteers. And I have seen that it's the TreePeople volunteers that are like the most elite, the friendliest, hardest working volunteers anywhere. And you are what makes like TreePeople the amazing and loved organization that it is, not only in California, but I think I saw some people from Seattle, so, and all over the country that are connecting with us as TreePeople. So we are lucky, and we have to say that we feel blessed every day, and we feel so fortunate that you've chosen to be part of TreePeople and be part of like what makes this movement of TreePeople just a very special movement. And I think that we have all seen, especially in these last few months, that more than ever, there's a desire to connect with nature, right? And there's this understanding of how healing nature really is. I loved seeing the responses in the chat right now of how so many of you have connected with nature and with your loved ones during this time, as have I. There is nothing that we miss more than being able to work with you as our volunteers in our neighborhoods, in the Angeles National Forest, in our mountains. We miss planting trees with you, restoring lands, building community and greening communities all over. We put together this virtual volunteer summit to provide you an update on what we've been doing to continue TreePeople's mission, which is about inspiring and engaging and supporting people to do something for the environment, for nature, and really be able to share that, what we do as a model for communities all over the world. You're going to be hearing from some of our team members, some of who you know because you've been out here volunteering with us, on things you can do to still stay involved with us and continue to support TreePeople's mission in our important work during these times. I have to be honest, it's been really hard for us as TreePeople. Our beautiful park has been closed. I don't think we've ever closed the park for this long. And those of you that visit our park and hike our park, it is without a doubt one of the, if not the most beautiful park in Los Angeles. We've had reduced funding, and so we've had to make some difficult budget cuts. We've had to suspend all of our volunteer plantings as soon as the state and the local orders came out, restricting the gatherings to no more than 10 people. As you have noticed when you volunteer with us, a lot of our events are full with people, so we just couldn't keep doing our events. We were really heartbroken when our eco tours, which are these incredible, fun, award-winning eco tours where we get 10 to 12,000 kids every year up at our park, those had to be suspended because the schools shut down, and again, we couldn't have more than 10 people. So it's been really difficult. We work at York Village, and we hear the kids running around campus all day long, and it's hard to not be able to continue to promote our work there. However, fortunately, it didn't stop us from being able to quickly just move and pivot and adjust. And so we were one of the first environmental organizations to take all of our programming virtual. So if you haven't already done so, I encourage you to sign up for our Learn at Home with TreePeople lessons, so you can continue to learn and grow even while you're at home. Follow us on social media. Our team is coming up with some really fun and engaging stuff. Share our social media with others. And, although we're operating with smaller crews, we're still out there. We're still continuing to plant and care for trees in some areas across LA. And we've done some really cool stuff, like deliver fruit trees to communities that are underserved and lower income. And we literally took fruit trees to people's homes in the Southeast LA community of Commerce. And that was really fun and really special and really moved a lot of community members there. And we were just recently given the opportunity to return to the Angeles National Forest. We loved working up in the Angeles Forest. For those of you that are part of our Angeles program, you know how amazing that restoration work is up in the Angeles. So we are looking forward to being able to return to the mountains. And we're just looking forward to the future. In these last few months, we received funding to go into the Baldwin Hills areas. Again, another very special, bigger open space in Los Angeles, a lot of history in Baldwin Hills. Linwood, which is another community in the Southeast LA community, South LA. We were just awarded money to plant 1,000 trees in Linwood. That's going to be amazing. We look forward to getting many of you to help us plant those 1,000 trees. And we're just going to continue to just work on restoring these areas and planting more trees. And some of the most some of the communities that have the lowest tree canopy coverage, high or poor air quality, are heavily impacted by climate threats. We have all seen, obviously, the national discourse and discussions on issues of injustice and equity. And those have been, from the very beginning, guiding principles that TreePeople has really just carries deep in our hearts and drives our mission. So being able to work in communities like Watts, which just in 1965 went through something similar, what we have been witnessing across the country, where the Watts, the Watts riots caused significant damage. And now TreePeople is working with other community partners to plant over 4,000 trees in Watts in these next few years. So we look forward to working with the community and working with you to get those trees planted in communities like Watts. So now more than ever before, we're just committed to partnering with communities all over to just address the most pressing needs in communities. Because after all, we're all tree people, right? All of us are tree people. We all need to work together. And this is really an opportunity for us to unite communities and continue to do the special work that all of you have done with us. So thank you again. Thank you really for giving of yourself, your time, your talent, your passion, and making TreePeople the special place that it is.
Thank you for that, Cindy. Thank you so much for those updates. And it sounds like we have some upcoming projects. So thank you. Thank you for those updates. If we could do the next slide, please. All right, and that would be me. My name is Luis. I've been with the organization for almost 3 years, and I like to rub it in the faces of my colleagues that I really do think I have the funnest job. I get to interact with folks from all over the county, all over the state, all over the country, and sometimes even all over the world, and introduce our programs and talk to them about the work that we're doing, and ideally plug them into our programs and get folks to volunteer. And I wanted to give you an example of one of the many, many countless stories that I've come across. And this is just one volunteer. And this was actually the first volunteer that I ever met. And I remember I had just started with the organization. IT had got my email set up, and maybe like 2 minutes later, I got an email. And this was someone who had been volunteering at the park. And this person had moved from the East Coast, I forget what state. She'd been living in LA. She was a writer or a screenwriter, if I remember correctly. And her father was coming into town. And she had made it this tradition, right, that every holiday season, her grandfather came to town and she would bring him to volunteer with us. And I remember just kind of taking a step back, right, and reading that email twice and making sure I was getting everything in. And I actually got to meet her and her grandfather. And it really took me back. It really made me appreciate that because myself, having grown up and being born in Los Angeles and having gone to school to be an educator and just kind of having this be my goal to back, and then to meet a stranger who also wanted to do the same, and then to start going to our events and then realize that our events were filling up and that there was just so many folks that wanted to give back in a very specific and focused cause like ours is really stood out to me, and it really made me fall in love with the organization. So that's a little bit of who I am. Thank you again, everyone. And if you're joining late, please use the chat box, type in questions you might have. And with that said, we have our first poll. So a poll is integrated software into to Zoom. So if we could pull that poll up, please. And everyone will have the option to choose one of those answers. All right, awesome. So the poll question is, where have you volunteered with us? All right, nursery, Coldwater Canyon Park, street planting, street tree care, and mountain restoration. And if you have not volunteered with us, then I would say maybe just leave a blank there. Okay. All right, folks. So go ahead and choose your option that best reflects you. And if we can get the next slide, please. All right, a quick question. Yes, Elaine, it looks like it does only lets you choose one. So I would say choose the one where you volunteered the most, right? Because I do know that a lot of our volunteers like to cross-train. All right, so who we are, our mission as an organization is to inspire and support the people of Los Angeles to come together to plant and care for trees. We harvest the rain and renew depleted landscapes. Right, through community education, citizen empowerment, and research and policy work, TreePeople advocates for a healthier, greener, and more equitable Los Angeles. And we've planted more than 3 million trees, and we've engaged with over 4 million people. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. Why does it matter? Well, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, but we all know that trees cool our cities, provide food for people and for non-people, and it makes air breathable, streets walkable, and schoolyards playable. All right, next slide, please. And we're going to look a little bit at some of the different programs that we have. Oh, breaking news just in. Mountain restoration is clearly our most popular program with the folks in the Zoom room currently. We have street planting. Those are my personal favorites. No, nothing against the restoration work. I love that too. Street planting at 29, Coldwater Canyon Park 22, street tree care at 6. I love it. Awesome. Cool. So looking at some of the programs that we have here, the first one is our urban forestry program. So this is forestry work that takes place in an urban setting. We plan and care for trees to cool our city, improve air quality, and protect people from flooding one tree, one street, one neighborhood at a time. All right, next slide, please. Mountain forestry. All right, this is work that takes place in our mountains, and the strategies overlap with our annual work. This is work where we address fires, droughts, and pests because they've left our wildlands especially vulnerable. So we ask that you help us bring these mountains to a healthy and resilient functioning ecosystem. All right, next slide, please. And we have our Coldwater Canyon Park work days. These are events where folks are doing things like sweeping, mulching, watering, helping us maintain our beautiful headquarters, which is at Coldwater and Mulholland. And we are actually still having park work days, but as Cindy mentioned at the very beginning, we are prioritizing the safety of our volunteers. We are following all CDC guidelines. So what we're doing is we're asking folks to email us. Then we connect you with the Park Ops team member, and we schedule a time where you come in. So you would either come in by yourself, or if you have members in your household, we are allowing that to take place, right? So if you have maybe a loved one, a family member of any kind who lives in your house, you would be able to volunteer together. But we're not having the traditional park work days where we're having groups of folks volunteer together, right? We are respecting the face mask requirements and the physical distancing of at least 6 feet for all work. So again, if that interests you, send us an email and we'll get that set up for you. So those are some of the types of programs that we have. And I am a big fan of stories. I feel like the stories of our volunteers really help capture who we are. So with that said, we felt it necessary to invite one of our volunteers here to share her personal narrative and share a little bit about what brought her and what she's been doing with TreePeople. Barbara, if you are there, if you could please unmute yourself, and if we can get the next slide, please. We'll give Barbara a minute here, and hopefully she didn't get disconnected. Barbara, I hear
I'm
you.
here. Yes, yes.
Hey,
Thank you,
Barbara.
Louise.
Thank you for
Sorry.
joining us, and I'm hoping you can share a little bit about what you've been doing with TreePeople and how you got involved.
I'd be happy to. Thank you, Louise. And thank you to the TreePeople team for pulling together this volunteer summit. It's a really great way to reconnect with the organization and with each other. And I love this creative approach to bringing together this community. So thank you. I'm going to take a few minutes. And as Louise said, I'm just going to share my story, how I got involved with TreePeople, what I do here, and what keeps me here. So my first experience with TreePeople was just over a year ago at a Teams for Trees event in Topanga Canyon with the company that I was working for at the time. But I would say the story really begins the night before, because the LA Times published a feature article on the Tongva language and efforts by a local linguist and Tongva descendants to revive that language and bring it back to life. And it was a fantastic article. And as I'm reading this, it is just eye-opening. And I will say, I am not proud of this, but in all the time I've lived in LA, I've always thought of it as being very young and very modern. And reading that article was the first time that I really got a sense of how ancient the land is, how ancient its history is, who the first inhabitants are, and their lives here, and the tragedy of what happened to them. And it was just so moving and humbling to realize all this in this place where I live, but I've never really understood in that way. And one of the things I learned from the article was that Topanga Canyon is named after the Tongva village that used to sit on that site. And I knew I was going to Topanga Canyon the next day, and I was just so grateful to have the chance to go with kind of this new vision and perspective, and go with new eyes. And so the next morning, early the next morning, my coworkers and I show up, and Cody Chappell and Jack Smith are leading the event. And Cody tells us our job for the day is to pull out all those pretty flowers that we see around us, all those like yellow and purple and white flowers, because they're black mustard and wild radish, and as pretty as they look, they're invasives and they choke out native plants, they harm animals, and they become fire hazards as we get into summer. And I think, again, on that theme of the land surprising me, I mean, that was just so unexpected and an amazing surprise. And then as we get to work, at one point, Jack points out a stand of giant wild rye, a native plant on the site, and he's explaining how the Indians used to use that plant to roll tobacco as a cutting edge, like how they used to use that plant when they lived there. And that was a moment that I would just say took kind of this past, this history, this ancient past I've been meditating on since the night before, and took that kind of out of the hazy ether and connected it right there to that living plant standing right there in front of me. And it was just, the whole experience was magical. And I was just realizing this land is so vast and so mysterious. And then one of the most amazing things was that I was there helping to pull out invasives. I was working with the land, just little me, but I can help this place that's so much grander and more amazing than I can imagine. And it was just to have that partnership felt like such a privilege. And I just fell in love with the whole experience, as I'm sure you can tell, just absolutely fell in love with it. And the timing, again, was really fortuitous because I had actually already given notice at work. I was leaving to start my own consulting practice and also to begin writing creatively. And so I knew being self-employed that I would have a more flexible schedule, and I'd already been looking for volunteer opportunities. So basically the event, I begged Jack and Cody to let me come volunteer and begged, and they let me. And so I've been volunteering mostly with the mountain forestry team for last year. And the work I do, I help out in a nursery, I help out with the wildland restoration events. And I would say that in this year, I find that I've been learning so much, but then part of learning all that is learning how much I'm never going to know and I'm never going to understand. And I think that's all part of the magic of it. And just recently, I was writing a poem and wanted to make a reference to something about an oak, but I just wanted to make sure I actually got it right and wasn't just making things up. And I had some questions, so I Googled it, and I just ended up down this rabbit hole of research. I no longer remember what my original question was, but I ended up learning that in the wild, that coast-live oak saplings are more likely to survive and thrive if they spend the first few years of their lives growing up underneath what you would call a nurse shrub. So like purple sage or California sagebrush or coyote brush, and that those shrubs basically act like nature's deer cages and protect these saplings in these very like young and vulnerable years of their lives. And I'm reading this, I'm utterly fascinated and just thinking, how beautiful is that? I never could have imagined that plants partner with each other. You know, I can't make that up. And so, and there's always, I find something lovely to learn like that, some new insight, or even just seeing a plant in a stage of its life cycle. I've never seen it before, and seeing its new beauty in that stage, or all the amazing scents of a lot of the plants that we work with, especially, you know, sagebrush or sage, of course. And so there's always something new and lovely like that. And so I would just say in conclusion, when I think about what keeps me here and what keeps me volunteering, I think I am preaching to the choir, as Louise said as well. We all volunteer because we want to do something good with our time on earth and make a positive difference. But to be perfectly honest, I keep volunteering because I'm just having so much fun and I loved it. And that's all there is to it. It's as simple as that.
Thank you so much for that, Barbara. And I love that you use the word fun. That's actually, that word is very strategically also placed on our mission statement as well, because that's really our goal, is to have fun when we do the work that we're doing, right? So thank you for sharing that, Barbara.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, everyone, if you have questions, comments, please use the chat box option. We want to hear from you. And if you are comfortable, please share your face with us. We want to see you. We miss our volunteers so much. So with that said, if we can get the next slide, please. I want to introduce Ariel and Chris, who are going to speak about a program that allows you to volunteer from your own neighborhood.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you. My name is Ariel. I'm the Director of Education and Community at TreePeople. I'm here to tell you about how, even though we can't all get together in a big group and volunteer, we can still volunteer with TreePeople, and we have devised this really cool program for you to do that. Before that, I'll let Chris introduce herself, and then I'll go into what you can do.
Hey all, Chris here, Director of Program Development, and so excited to work with the team to figure out some ways to get you involved this summer.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. So I don't know about you guys, but I live in an apartment and I don't have really access to being able to plant a tree in my backyard or front yard. But I have walked around my neighborhood so much more. I'm sure, I mean, I know my neighborhood better than I ever could have. And I probably couldn't have said this before joining TreePeople as a staff member, but now I notice every single tree on my block. And what I have noticed is that there are a lot of young trees on our block. And something that I was thinking about as I was walking around and seeing all these new baby trees on my block is, man, how are these trees going to survive during this hot summer that we have here in LA? And that's a lot of what we do at Tree People. Is it's not only about planting the trees, but taking care of the trees and mobilizing community together to take care of trees. And that's my favorite part about our volunteer events, is just meeting my neighbors, meeting neighbors from other areas, and all of us just coming together to take care of these baby trees. So next slide, please. So we have this new program where we really want to mobilize folks all around, you know, LA, California, Portland, across the nation, to take care of young trees through the summer, because really it's the most vulnerable time. And it's just so important because you know, a lot of our cities are getting hotter and hotter, and for us to really think about cooling strategies, trees are such an amazing component of that, but they have to grow big, right? And they have to, you know, the branches have to touch to create that cooling. So we have folks from all over asking to help take care of these trees, including our mayor. So it's the perfect opportunity this summer to volunteer with us. So let's launch that next poll, Emmy, because I wanna see our folks' knowledge here on the call around tree care. So, how can you care for a tree? Water, weed, rebuild a berm, or all of the above? Oh man, I'm seeing we have some really smart people on this call. Wow, 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 I love it. I love it. That's great. 52 responses. It is all of the above. We have to water, we have to weed, and we have to rebuild that berm, which I didn't even know berm was a term before I joined Tree People, but it is so important to build a berm, right? All right, next slide. So how are we gonna do this over the summer? Well, we propose to really build community tree care teams, and Tree People is gonna help you along the way to build tree care teams. And what we'll do is we're hoping to mobilize this huge mass of folks adopting trees, taking care of them throughout the summer, and making sure that they get the care that they need. Next slide, please. So what does that mean? What is building a community tree care team? Well, here are some steps. You find young trees on your street and or in your neighborhood, develop a plan for taking care of them through the summer, make it fun. I mean, this is the best part about it, is that you can do it individually. I probably will do it individually on my street, but I also am getting to know my neighbors more now because we're all at home. So I'm gonna ask them to join me to help take care of these trees. So you can build a family, a team. Maybe I'll get some friends on a Zoom chat and they can take care of their trees in San Diego. I'll take care of mine here, and we'll all work together to take care of these trees. And then we'll have a form that you can register your team with so that you can see other people taking care of trees and kind of track your progress. Next slide, please. So the next step is really to learn properly, because this is very important, learning properly how to take care of these young trees. And there are very simple steps, but they are really important. Like, probably a lot of you, since you all answered that tree care question right, know that, you know, really you want to slow the water down when you're watering it by putting your hand out or putting the end of a shovel out. So we will teach you all these steps. We'll walk you through it. And I'm excited to announce that we have a live lesson to do this this Thursday at 1 p.m. Luis will be hosting it, which is great, along with one of our other employees, Emmy. And we will really walk you through the different steps. And there will be a recording as well that we'll share out. And the idea is really to, instead of hosting our big volunteer events, it's gonna be like one giant volunteer event throughout the whole summer, and we'll be in touch with you about this. So I'm gonna put in the link how to sign up for that live lesson right now. You'll also get a resource email after that will help you sign up for it. Next slide, please.
So what about trees, Ariel? Don't we need more trees? So, well, as Ariel has shared, providing tree care for young trees is one of the most important things we can do to ensure that our young trees survive through the summer. Because, you know, as we've always said at Tree People, we don't want our trees to just survive. We want them to thrive. And so, so as you're out there caring for trees in your neighborhood, you may find that there are streets that actually could use more trees. And so we need a lot more trees. So this summer, we are bringing back a Tree People Classic training. We're calling it our Community Forestry Leader Training, which will be a series of workshops that will teach you how to organize and run a tree planting event in your community. You know, we'll take a look at how to check in with your neighbors, how to determine which spots can actually take trees, learn about the right tree for the right place, how to organize event, just look at all of this. And in hopes that we can do that. The goal is to launch it this summer so that we can all work together and get you ready to be able to plant trees this fall or winter once it's tree planting season again. Like this, it will be on Zoom, but we're planning, Michelle Bagnato and I are working on how it can be interactive and designed so that all participants will learn and support each other through this process of learning. So if this sounds of interest to you and you want to learn more, please let us know. And in fact, type yes in the chat room to let me know you think this is a great idea. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ariel and Chris, for that. How exciting. Wow, my entire chat box just got full of yeses. I love it. I love it. So hopefully we'll see you Thursday. And if you can't join us this Thursday, send us an email, volunteer@treepeople.org. I can help you find where the recorded webinars are if you need help with that. I know our website has so much amazing information. So, you know, if you're intimidated with any of that, I'm happy to help you. Okay, so if we can, next slide, please. Awesome. So I wanted to share one more quick story, and I'll give you the very, very short version. Our Southeast LA team shared one time that as they were doing work, a group of grandmothers ran and hugged them, and they started crying. And after they asked these grandmothers, you know, why are you crying? You know, what's wrong? And it wasn't that they were sad. It's that they were so thankful that their street was going to have shade now. Because whenever these grandmothers would go to pick up their grandkids, they had to go 2 blocks one direction and then do a complete loop around the direct path to the school in order to get shade. So these are basic rights that we think would be available to folks. So thank you, Chris and Ariel, for sharing this new program, and hopefully we see some of these amazing volunteers there. All right, awesome. Well, with that said, I want to introduce yet one more staff member. Ezekiel, if you could unmute yourself, please, and if we can get the next slide. Ezekiel, are you there, my friend?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks, everyone, for joining today. It's so exciting to see many of your faces since we can't gather in person like we normally do. And while we can't plant and gather like we normally do, you know, you Tree People remain the lifeblood and the roots, I should say, of our mission. And in particular, like, even when we can't gather, you still can help us plant trees and expand our green canopy across Los Angeles. I'm not sure if everyone can see my background in the video, but you may think it's odd that a Tree People person is posting a treeless, greenless, cement-covered background photo for this meeting. But this photo, in fact, is one of the many reasons I believe in Tree People's missions and importance. You know, many communities and neighborhoods look just like this. They're treeless. They don't have trees or green infrastructure, which means they have hotter days and dirtier air and more water runoff and less biodiversity and many other negative things. And so, you know, COVID or not, Tree People remains ambitious with our tree planting goals and projects, and we still very much need your support to complete all these big projects. Next slide, please. So today, we are launching and unveiling a new campaign. You, our volunteers, are the first to hear about this and can be the first to sign up for it. It's called Rooting for Our Future, because we all need to plant some good foundations right now for a brighter, healthier, and greener future. And what it does is it aims to plant 20,000 trees over the next 24 months, because nobody should live in a greenless, treeless place. And because this is so important that we continue planting trees now, not in a few months or not in a few years, our board has pledged $100,000 to match any donation we receive for this Rooting for Our Future campaign. And as you've heard, we're planting all over the place. This campaign will be working in communities like Watts and Linwood and La Mirada and Santa Fe Springs and Norwalk. And we'll be distributing free fruit trees to residents in places like Commerce. And our reach will also take us up to the higher elevations up in the San Francisquito Canyon. Say that 3 times fast. Maybe that should be our next challenge for this talk. And out to the Santa Monica Mountains. And in cities like San Fernando, Watts, and Huntington Park, Cudahy, Bell, and Downey, we will plant and care for these trees along these key pedestrian corridors, as well as in schools and parks. And so, as you know, and as you've probably volunteered with, we plant all over this region to make sure that, everyone lives in a healthy, biodiverse area where, trees and people live happily together. Can you go to the next slide? And so you, our beautiful volunteers, can make sure this happens through the Rooting for Our Future campaign with your own fundraising page. And if you set up your own fundraising page, we also want to give you some sweet Tree People rewards when you hit certain levels. So if you raise $250 through this campaign through you and your friends, we'll give you a Tree People branded face covering so you can show your love for trees everywhere you go and everywhere you plant, even during COVID. And if you raise $500, we are producing this limited print Tree People vintage art shirt, and you can see it kind of goes back way to our roots when we started in the Los Angeles forest and we were just planting pine trees. As you know, we plant tons of different species and many different kinds of trees, but back in the day it was pine trees. So you can represent our roots with these t-shirts if you raise $500. And by the way, if you raise $500 to you and your friends, it actually means $1,000 because our board will be matching those dollars. And at $750, Chris and others from the team will give you your own private virtual Tree People lesson. You can choose a lesson on soils or compost, or we have so many amazing experts of our nearly 50 years of existence that can teach you and your friends whatever you want to know and whatever we can offer. And then if you get to the $1,000 level, which again is $2,000 because of the match, you can earn your own 10-person guided hike at Coldwater Canyon Park, which is always fun for friends and families to go on a tour and learn about the plants and the ecosystems that are happening there. And this one I think is really cool because it's mostly been for Team or for Trees or special occasions. But if you raise $1,500 through this fundraiser, you can have your own private 10-person tree planting event. That means you and 9 of your friends can come out to one of our locations of your choice to plant some trees. So I think that's pretty exciting. And then if you happen to raise 5,000 or more, you can have the big shebang party where 10 people can come, and we'll have a photographer, we'll post it all over social media, and we'll give shirts to everyone that participates. So it's a very exciting way for you guys to get involved, and hope you, even if you can't raise $250, go on that page and raise $50. Even if each of your friend only give $5 each and 10 of them, $50 actually means a lot and can help us reach this ambitious goal of 20,000 trees. Next slide. And so setting up your own fundraising page is pretty fun and easy, and it can be personal as you'd like it to be. So first things first, just go to treepeople.org/treematch and select start a fundraising page, and it will through our QGive platform. And then next slide, please. Follow the registration instructions and select a fundraising goal. So you can start off, like I said, with $50, $100, no matter what you think you and your friends can raise. Just set a reasonable goal, and you can always change it halfway through. And then this is the fun part for me. The next slide, please, is once you've registered, you can customize your fundraising page, much like you do a Facebook page, or if you're not familiar with Facebook, like MySpace, and tell your Tree People story. And I think this is kind of the one most exciting part, aside from helping us raise money, is really sharing your story and why you care about trees and tree people. You can see my avatar is a baby Groot. I'm not sure if there's any Avengers fans out there, Guardians of the Galaxies fans out there, but that's baby Groot on my profile picture. And I shared a story, my first volunteer event in the Cold Creek Preserve, where I was removing invasive mustards and planting a plethora of native trees, shrubs, and flowers. But what I've since grown to really love most is planting in these economically and environmentally stressed communities, these places where we're transforming treeless neighborhoods into shaded greenways. And that's what volunteers events have excited me most of the recent past. So you can kind of share your story and get other people excited about why you love Tree People, much as Barbara and others have shared throughout the years. And then next slide, please. Once you've set that all up, you can share with your friends, and this QGift platform makes it very easy to share through email, Facebook, and Twitter, and you can even connect it through Facebook to accept donations through there. And next slide, please. And since you are all Tree People, your stories, your support, your volunteering, our communications team will share your stories and fundraising pages to help you reach all the success you set up to raise there. My hope is that we can plant these 23,000 trees as soon as possible, and you guys can help us reach that fundraising goal to do so. And we won't have streets like this in my background, but we'll have streets like this where, there's lots of trees on every streets and on all the mountaintops for us and all species to enjoy. Next slide, please. And if you're kind of like, I don't know what you just said, and I don't even know where to go on an internet link to set any of that up. If you're so excited right now and want to just directly donate, just text Tree Match to 50155. Just make sure spell check doesn't change it for you, but Tree Match to 50155. And again, all donations will be matched dollar for dollar by our board. So hopefully you guys can sign up and participate and share the love of trees and help us plant trees all over the region.
Thank you so much for that, Ezekiel. That was a great update. And yes, we'll email afterwards. We'll have all this information. So don't run and grab your cell phone right now. You can take a screenshot or wait for that follow-up email. So right now, we definitely want you to learn about the programs that we have. And I'm loving this chat box. There's so much diversity in terms of programming. These next questions, get the next slide, please, as well. There's a lot of questions coming in about, I'm a teacher, I work with youth. Ariel, if you could please tell us about the Learn at Home program.
Yes, I'd love to. And, Cindy mentioned it. It was pretty heartbreaking to not be able to do eco tours. That is something we have done for so long. And I mean, I meet people all the time, all ages, that tell me they went on an eco tour. And so it is a little sad that we can't offer those right now, but they will be back, I promise. And not only that, we're really looking to expand that program into other regions of LA. So what we did was, when coronavirus hit, we really had to think about how do we still meet our community's needs? We have all of this environmental education that we do. If you've been to one of our volunteer events, you don't just learn how to plant a tree. It's really an education event and a community event. So we wanted to keep giving that knowledge out, and even, to me, create more accessibility for folks. Not everybody can drive out to a volunteer event. Not everybody can physically plant a tree. So we really wanted to diversify the way that we were, sharing information and teaching people about different topics. So we launched Learn at Home. And I would love to hear in the chat who has been to some of our Learn at Home, because it's been quite a few weeks now that we've been doing this, and it has been really fun, I can tell you. And for folks that maybe started with us, I'm sure you've seen us get better over time. But it's been a really, really fun process. Next slide, please. I'll just walk you guys through what it is. So if you go to treepeople.org/learn-at-home, you will see our landing page. And what we're doing is that we've got these 6 broad topics: trees, water, soil, plants, waste reduction, and our community forest. And every week, we pick a topic within a topic. So we've done tree care within trees. We've done water capture within water. We did compost for soil. We did planting a native plant garden. So these are really tangible lessons, how-to lessons on what you can do at home right now and what you can learn. We did a big lesson on urban heat, which is very applicable to cities all across the United States and the world, and brought in some leading scientists to teach that lesson. So we're doing a mix of lessons, how-to videos, all things that are very relevant for folks. So we pick a different topic each week. Last week was urban heat. Next week, I'll give you the sneak peek is about rainwater harvesting. Then we'll have one on birds. So all you have to do is go to that webpage, Learn at Home, treepeople.org/learn-at-home. Sign up for our newsletter. You could also follow us on social media because we're always posting the links to what we're offering. And the exciting thing is that every week we offer one video that's really targeted for younger kids. It can be an art activity or a science activity. Then we have a video that's really made for middle, high school and older, so adults. That's our next video. And then we have every week a live lesson, which has been very fun. It's kind of like this. Everybody gets on a Zoom call and we lead you through a how-to lesson, or we lead you through a lesson about a certain topic. So sign up for those live lessons every week. They're very engaging. We try and keep them really, exciting, and then watch those videos. And then we always like to ask folks to share what you learned. So we were teaching folks on how to plant a native plant garden, and I saw on our social media folks doing that, or how to take care of a tree, or how to compost. There's all these different ways in which we love seeing folks actually doing it right now at home so that we can share via our social media. So right now I'd like to launch our next poll, which is we have these 6 main topics, and we're really curious what topics folks on this call right now are most interested in. Water, soil, native plants, trees, waste reduction, or community forest, which is really a more general topic. Great, I'll give a couple more seconds here for the answers to come in, and this will be really helpful, guys, to help guide us on what other lessons we can teach going forward. Fantastic. Thank you all for your contributions. Next slide, please, Emmy. And I see that native plants. We got a lot of native plant lovers in here, and we love that because we love native plants as well. So by the way, we have 2 lessons, 2 weeks that we've already done on native plants. So definitely go check out our website if you want to learn how to plant a native plant garden, or if you want to learn how to propagate and create super blooms. So our awesome nursery manager, Jack, just led that Learn at Home. And then another thing I wanted to make sure that you guys know of is if you go to the Learn at Home webpage, there's also a tab on each one that says resources. And these are incredible resources that Chris has developed. They are really simple to follow. You can print them out or use them on your computer. We've got, as you can see here to the left, how to care for trees. That's more in depth for older students and adults. But then we have these really cool activities for young kids. My Tree Buddy profile. In fact, Luis, I think you did one with your kids, right?
Yes.
Yeah, how did that go?
It was great. And I have a 4- and a 7-year-old, which sounds like they're very similar in age, but that's a huge difference in development and personalities and styles. And I use the same activity for both, and they did their thing and they loved it.
That's great. So we love that, and really exciting news too. All of our kind of elementary focused videos and all of these worksheets are in English and Spanish, which is really, really important to us because, you know, we really want to make sure that we create access when we're sharing all these activities and these resources. So if you are a Spanish speaker or you want to be doing the Spanish activities with your kids, we have both of those available. Next slide, please. So I saw in the chat also that some folks were interested about youth and how youth can get involved. I am excited to announce that we just decided to launch a youth summit for August. That's just in the early stages. Please, you know, stay in touch with our newsletter because you will get all those details on the youth summit. But that will be coming in August. And then for our teachers, I hope there are some teachers on this call. We love our teachers. We are still running our Generation Earth program, but we're doing it virtually, and we're offering it to middle and high school teachers as normal. And what we do is we teach lessons, environmental education lessons on water, waste, and campus forestry to your students, or we can partner with you to help you guide the lesson. Right now, we're working with LAUSD to be teaching students during summer school. So if you are a teacher from any of the 80 school districts across LA County, please send us an email at generationearth@treepeople.org, and we can set up personalized live lessons with you and your students to really get engaged around, again, waste, water, and campus forestry. Thank you. Next slide.
All right, well, thank you for that, Ariel. And well, this just pretty much sums up and concludes our webinar here. We want to thank everyone. And one more time, I'm going to put our volunteer email in the chat box. So if anything went kind of fast or was unclear, or maybe you had a question, but you were a little bit shy, email us. We will reply, and we want to get you involved. We have all kinds of different ways, and this webinar and all the resources that we mentioned will get sent to you in an email. And we get the next slide. And really, we encourage everyone to follow us on our social media. And that's, live videos, we have updates, we post on there regularly. So, if going to a website seems so just uncommon these days, and if social media is just easier for you, so as you're streaming and looking things up there, you can see our updates. That's really where you want to go. All right, and we do have one more minute here, so if anyone had any other questions they didn't get to post, I think we did a good job in answering all the questions that came up. All right, Griselda, you visited us 28 years ago, and then you came back. We love it. Yes, Loida's part of our education team, schools@treepeople.org. We do have resources for teachers, and and teacher is a broad term. Even if you're an uncle, a parent, a big brother, a little sister who just wants to get your family involved with the environment. All right, Ezekiel's got a tree match website there. Awesome. Oh, well, again, thank you everyone for joining us. And got a question from Facebook. Yes, so Ezekiel mentioned this, and Cindy mentioned this as well. We do have a huge project coming up in Baldwin Hills. I don't think we have an exact start date yet, but I would email volunteer@TreePeople. We can get you on that short list so that we update with you with that. So that's it's coming up in Baldwin Hills. We have someone on Facebook who's interested in that. That's awesome. And it was a pleasure meeting you too, Robert. Thank you for the questions, and thank you everyone who put a question. And another huge project in Irvine, correct? So all kinds of new stuff coming up, and previous programs that are ongoing. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone. Thank you everyone for joining. Stay in touch. Get out there, be safe, and thank you.